Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the New Muslim Workshop. My name is Mahmoud. In today's Revert reality check, we ask the question, is it compulsory for a new Muslim to learn how to speak Arabic? Let's discuss.
Welcome to the New Muslim Workshop.
Welcome back. So, the first thing we need to know is how many different versions of Arabic exist? And the answer is there's three. The first one being Al-Fusha, which is the classical form of Arabic. And the classical form of Arabic is basically enshrined in the Quran, the holy book of Muslims. And so Arabic and its grammar and the words, etc., have a reference point. They have something to go back to. And that is the verbatim word of Allah, which is the Quran. This version of Arabic never changes, is never modified. It is what it is.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا.
And it's protected by Allah. إنا نحن نزلنا الذكر وإنا له لحافظون. إنا له لحافظون means that we, Allah, will protect this book, and as such, the language within it is protected. The second variant of Arabic is Modern Standard Arabic, and it is basically classical Arabic with the addition of modern terminology, as well as borrowed words from different languages that have been Arabized. So you have words like logistia, which is logistical. Logistia is an English word that was Arabized, and logistia is created. Same thing with the word at-tilfaz, which means television. Television does not exist in Arabic, but at-tilfaz is an Arabized version of the word television. This variant is what they use when they read the news in the Middle East.
وأكد أن بلاده ستظهر ردة فعلها بأقوى شكل في هذا الموضوع.
It is what you read when you open a newspaper in the Middle East or in any sort of Arabic publication. The third variant of Arabic is colloquial Arabic or street slang Arabic or regional dialects of Arabic. And this has to do with three of the prominent parts of the Middle East. So the first prominent part of the Middle East is the Gulf area, and this is the countries that are located within the Arab Peninsula. So this includes Iraq, it includes Kuwait, it includes Bahrain, it includes Qatar, it includes Al-Imarat, which is the Emirates, it includes Oman, Yemen, and Saudiya. All of these countries comprise the Arab Peninsula or Al-Jazira Al-Arabiya. And they speak a specific Gulfi regional accent, which is understood because it is very similar to classical Arabic. However, obviously, it's been rounded out.
طلاقة لسانه تقول كأنه قاعد يقرأ من كتاب حرف ورا حرف كلمة ورا كلمة ما شاء الله تقول خرزت سبحة وربحة.
The second region is the Levant region, which is called Ash-Sham, and Ash-Sham includes Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan. And these countries comprise that region, Ash-Sham. In ancient times, Ash-Sham would refer to these four countries or that location. Then you have North Africa. North Africa can be split into two different regions. The first region being Misr, which is Egypt, and Sudan. And they are outliers. They're a bit different in the way that they speak. They're a bit more familiar to the rest of the Middle East. The rest of the Middle East can understand them.
أنا مش عايز أقول إن الأسلوب ده بيعمل تأخر في النمو العقلي للطفل فتفتكروني ببالغ، بس تعالوا نرجع بالزمن لورا شوية عشان نقدر نحلل الجملة دي ونعرف أثرها على الطفل المسكين ده. شفت؟
They are very heavily influenced by the countries that occupied them. So Egypt is heavily influenced by Turkey and England and France and ancient Egyptian. So there are certain words that are part of day-to-day Arabic in Egypt that are not Arabic. They're borrowed words from Turkish and English and French, etc. The other region is the North African region, which is Tunisia, Libya, Algeria, and Morocco. And that's considered North Africa. And the North African Arabic accent is very, very difficult to understand, at least for me. It is heavily influenced by French, and it is also influenced by Berber, which is a tribal language that the tribes of North Africa speak. So it has no relationship to Arabic, but certain parts of their lexicon bled into the regional dialects of those regions. So those are the three main regions of the Middle East that speak Arabic. Now, which version of Arabic should you learn if you choose to learn Arabic? Fusha is the best option for you, because almost 95% of that whole region will be able to understand you if you decide to learn that form of Arabic. And 100% of Islamic texts will be in the classical Arabic form. So if you decide to learn Arabic, that is the best bet for you. Now, why should you learn classical Arabic? Why should you learn Arabic at all? And the first reason for you to learn Arabic is to better understand and recite the Quran. The Quran, the verbatim word of Allah, was revealed to the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, 1440 years ago. That version of Arabic is not what is spoken today. Obviously, it's changed. However, it is understood and studied by all Muslims, or most Muslims. If you wish to recite the verbatim word of Allah, you will have to learn how to recite it in Arabic, because it is not acceptable for you to say that you have read the Quran if all you've done is read a translation. What you've done is read a translation of the Quran, which is an interpretation of the words of the Quran, as opposed to the actual Quran in the actual language that it was revealed in. So translations of the Quran are actually not considered the Quran. They're considered interpretations of translations. So a translator interprets the Quran and writes it down. In their opinion, this is what the Quran means. However, that has nothing to do with the actual word, verbatim word of Allah. So the two important parts of the Quran for the revert is at-tilawa, recitation of the Quran, and at-tajweed. I'm not going to talk about tartil. Tartil is the beautification, like the adding melody to the Quran. I'm talking about the two important aspects of the Quran for the revert, and that is at-tilawa, the ability to pick up a mushaf, a book, or the Quran, open it to a page and start reading it in the Arabic language. And the second part, which is the tajweed, is the perfection of pronunciation. So perfecting the pronunciation of the words as you speak it, and knowing the grammatical structure, where you know where to pause, where to elongate certain vowels, and so on and so forth. So how to say the words in the way that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, has taught us. The second reason why you should learn Arabic is to perfect your prayer. Allah the Almighty has told us through the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, how to pray, how to get closer to him, and how to convey our prayer. Now, there are two kinds of prayer in Islam. There are prayer which are supplications, which is asking Allah for stuff. And the second is the 5 compulsory prayers that a Muslim needs to do, which are the dawn prayers, the noon prayers, the afternoon prayers, the sunset prayers, and the night prayers, which is what every Muslim has to do every day, except for a woman who is on her menses and a child who has not reached the age of puberty. For you to know how to pray properly, you have to follow the structure that was taught to us by the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. So, the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, says that you start with Allahu Akbar. He doesn't say you start with Allah is great or God is great. It is compulsory for you to say Allahu Akbar, and that you start your prayer, your salah, with Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter of the book, the Quran. You are not to say, in the name of Allah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most merciful. That does not qualify as reading the Quran in prayer. Now, I'm not talking about a person who just became Muslim and has that rukhsa, where he's learning how to become a Muslim and how to pray. And yet, even to him or her that have become Muslim in the last week, they are expected to eventually memorize that first chapter of the Quran, because it's compulsory for them to know how to recite at least that first chapter of the Quran, which is less than a page in length. So when I say chapter, I'm not talking about something that's 10 pages long. I'm talking about something, the smallest chapter in the Quran is like 3 lines long. It's tiny. Anybody can memorize something like that. So the point here is that learning how to pray properly requires for you to learn how to say the phrases in Arabic. And so that is a step forward on your path of spirituality, of getting closer to Allah. The next thing that learning how to speak Arabic helps you with is the Hadeeth of the Prophet, the tradition of the Prophet. And the tradition of the Prophet has to do with the way that the Prophet looked, the way that the Prophet dressed, the way that the Prophet ate, the things that the Prophet approved of and disapproved of, the things that the Prophet recommended and forbid for us to do. The collection of the traditions of the Prophet is equal in value to us to the Quran. وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ. So it is important for us. It is the explanation of many things that were not explained in the Quran. For example, how to pray is not included in the Quran. It just tells us to pray. However, the process of praying is included in the Sunnah. How to perform wudu, how to perform ablution, how many prostrations in the prayer is not in the Quran, however, it is in the traditions of the Prophet. So it is important for you to be able to study the traditions of the Prophet in the original language. It doesn't mean you can't study it in English or French or German or whatever. It's just more accurately close to what the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, has taught us. So it is recommended that you are able to learn the traditions of the Prophet and at least experience Jawami' al-Kalim. One of the miracles of the Prophet is his ability to say a few words that convey massive amounts of meaning. The fourth thing that learning Arabic will help you in is the ability to say your supplications in the way that Allah has taught the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. So the Prophet taught us how to ask Allah for things. And even though you can ask him in your language, as at the beginning stages, it is better for you to be able to emulate the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in how you ask Allah, in the supplications themselves. So we spoke about the salah. Now we're talking about a dua, which is a supplication. The last thing that you need to know, and the fifth reason why you should learn how to speak Arabic, is because if you actually want to take your religion seriously and take steps upon the path of learning more about Islam, take a deeper dive into your spirituality, and go and study Islamic studies, in many institutes, they will, as a minimum requirement, ask you to memorize half the Quran. And in many cases, be able to tell them where certain verses of the Quran are. So they will say, in which part of the Quran did Allah, the Almighty, talk about divorce, or talk about inheritance, or talk about interest and usury? And you would have to say, and recite that verse. This is where in Islamic institutions that are serious Islamic institutions, this is how they treat the memorization of the Quran as a minimum requirement. So in my humble opinion, I would suggest that you take baby steps towards learning the Arabic language. I believe that this will be an excellent addition to your skill set and will help you on your path to getting closer to Allah the Almighty. Thanks for watching. In the next video, I will discuss the different options that a person can partake in to learn the Arabic language in our day and age using the internet and other options that they have in the West, inshallah. Thanks for watching, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.